So today we are rolling out the details of our passport case competition, and we have distinguished guests to help us do that. The president of Carnegie Mellon University, Farnam, Jananian, and the Chancellor of the University of Pittsburgh, Gallagher, who will be saying a few words shortly. But first, I'd like to give you a quick preview of what this case competition is about. As I said, case competitions are a great way for the students to engage with each other in teams on meaningful issues and help to make a progress forward and build the future. So we've selected 3 topics that are timely, relevant, and critical. The first topic is back to school. In this, the competing teams will have to think about providing a solution on how to re-enter college campuses safely and engage in social activities that allow for interaction, fun, and learning safely. The second topic is social justice. The teams will have to tackle the problem of how do we teach and promote anti-racism at home, at work, and at school. What tools can you create that provide the opportunity for ongoing dialogue and learning between intersectional audiences from various races, ages, and genders? The third and the final topic is Welcome to Pittsburgh, in which the teams would have to design an app concept that will welcome new professional talent to the region by connecting them to other professionals, social activities, meetups, tips about the region, etc. And so you will have this rich set of topics to choose from and think about what your teams can do. I'd now like to introduce our speakers and hear their views on their current state of affairs, what their institutions' roles have been in furthering the success of the students and the region, and how you all can help make an impact starting today. First, I would like to invite from the Carnegie Mellon University, President Farnam Jananian.
Thank you very much, Abhinav, for your warm welcome, and also good afternoon to all of you. I want to also echo what's been said. Thank the organizers and the sponsors of this competition. I'm glad to be here to kick off the Pittsburgh Passport Case Competition with all of you, especially to share this opportunity with my close friend and colleague, Chancellor Pat Gallagher. You'll hear today about this competition from others, of course, so I'm hoping to focus my brief remarks on a couple of questions that may be fresh in your mind, especially as you think about your academic careers and also internship experience and what are you going to do next after you graduate? Where do you want to live? And more specifically, should I consider building my career and life here in Pittsburgh? Let me be blunt about it. The resounding answer to that is yes. Unlike some of the other folks that are on this call, I'm actually relatively new to Pittsburgh. I came here about 5 years ago after spending most of my career at University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, which is also a wonderful town. And also I had the honor of serving at the National Science Foundation in the previous administration in Washington, D.C. You know, since I came to Pittsburgh, I've been blown away what a great place this is to live, to work, and to play. You've heard accolades about Pittsburgh being the best place for young people to find a new job, or about our terrific restaurants and world-class sports and culture. But I also want to take a moment to talk to you a little bit about Pittsburgh qualities that may not be quite as obvious, but it's really important and relevant, not only to this competition and topics of the competition, but also to what we are experiencing as society and as a nation. There's great evidence on this call, as you'll see, that there is an incredible alignment between the public, private, nonprofit, and academic sectors in Pittsburgh. We don't just like each other and talk to each other. We get together and get things done. And there's a deep commitment to the well-being of the community and everyone in the community, and rising all the boats, so to speak. The history of these relationships go back to the time when Pittsburgh economy was based on the steel industry and the industrial past. Since then, with the collapse of the steel industry, and more recently, the economy has pivoted to what you would expect is the new economy, driven by technology, healthcare, financial services, and the future of manufacturing. The world has changed, of course, especially over the last year due to COVID-19. And as our nation also confronts legacies of racial injustice, there are enormous challenges and opportunities for the public and the private sector and nonprofit and academic institutions to come together. It's more than ever before what you need to have these types of collaborations, cooperations to benefit everyone in society and bring everybody along. No place in the world is perfect, of course. Every place has its own challenges. But what's inspiring about Pittsburgh is the commitment of people in this community to to make life better for each person in the community. I would be remiss if I didn't spend, given my own background on Carnegie Mellon, didn't say a couple of words about the city's amazing technology sector. After all, a lot of the activities we've seen in companies like Google, Apple, Uber, Bosch, and very recently, Zoom announced that in fact they're going to have an R&D presence in Pittsburgh starting this fall. Over the past several decades, what you have seen is Pittsburgh tech economy has really grown substantially. This is the center of self-driving cars, robotics, and advanced manufacturing, and a number of related fields. But that's the fun part. The new energy and technology is not about just established companies, but also there's an amazing growing startup ecosystem that has grown over the past decade with the support of venture business, venture capitalists. Just an example of it is Duolingo, which is a CMU spin out, I'm happy to say. This past year became Pittsburgh's very first unicorn, a venture-backed company with a essentially valuation of more than $1 billion last year. These startups combined with large companies, many of which you're going to be working for, or you're working at, I should say, for your internship and beyond, bring a lot of talent to Pittsburgh and create terrific opportunities between the public sector, the private sector, and our academic institutions. And more options for meaningful roles for these companies and people that they bring to town, to Pittsburgh. I do want to share with you one last point. As you spend the summer socially distancing from each other, and I assume in many cases separated from your friends and loved ones, that experiences that you normally would have are not probably available during the summer internship. But I hope that you will use this opportunity to build some new friendships and encourage you to preserve them and stay with them. This is truly an unprecedented time for society and for our nation. I am inspired, I'm sure Pat Gallagher would agree with this, by this new generation of students that we see in our daily lives on our campuses. I'm confident that we will emerge from these challenges much stronger and make us all stronger as we live through the current set of circumstances. And when we get to the other side of the mountain, I think we'll be much, much more resilient. With that, I want to thank you all and wish you luck with this competition. And now I turn it over to Chancellor Pat Gallagher. Pat?
Thank you, Farnam. Well, it's great to see all of your faces through Zoom, our new way of life here. Let me start by also thanking our sponsors. I think the idea of the Pittsburgh Passport, case competition here is already a great idea in terms of addressing some of the real challenges we face, but to have this kind of X Prize element to it now with real prize money and it really just makes it even more special at this time. I want to give a real shout out to our sponsors and also David Malone, who helped pull this together, who I know is on the call right now. Let me talk about two of my favorite things to talk about, innovation in Pittsburgh, and use that as maybe as a little bit of a segue to talk about the three sets of problems that you might be thinking about competing for. So, Farnam talked about this quite a bit. Pittsburgh, for those of you who don't know the city well, does have this sort of industrial reputation, part of the Rust Belt, although now we think about it as Rust Belt chic, with a lot of, cool things happening around the city. But the truth of the matter is Pittsburgh has had a fascinating history, really at the forefront of innovation for almost all of its history. And I tend to think that happened because of its frontier, the edge of the Western frontier at one time, access to transportation. But this is the birthplace of much of what we consider to sort of be part of modern life. The oil industry was born here. Obviously, the materials science led to the strength of the steel, and then the aluminum and glass manufacturing, and then coating manufacturing companies. But this was also the birthplace of commercial radio, TV, and of electrification. Westinghouse was here. Also the cable industry, biomedical inventions like the polio vaccine, and the birthplace of modern emergency medicine. The first ambulance and paramedic units are coming out of Pittsburgh. And in so many ways, for me, this idea that Pittsburgh has reinvented itself now from a city of steel to a city of innovation is just not really true. We've always been a city of innovation. And what's happening is we're going through one of these waves of disruption and reinvention that innovation always causes. And so some of the long-standing, highly mature industries are being replaced by the industries of tomorrow. And whether that's in autonomy and autonomous vehicles and automation and digital technologies, or whether it's in advanced medicine and biotechnology, Pittsburgh finds itself once again, by virtue of sort of having this incredible treasure of universities and being a great place to live and attracting talent, at a period of incredible reinvention. And so we're really excited about innovation. I think it's a big part that our students look forward to, coming into a city that's full of sort of city-sized opportunities, but in a place that's small enough to be quite intimately involved. And Farnam talked about this. This is a place where it gets real very fast, where the business leaders, the civic leaders get together and work directly with you, and where you can actually make an impact in innovations. And I think that's why this new wave of reinvention is happening around us right now. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is that, of course, all great innovation is generally driven by great need. I think it's our response as human beings, as sort of the consummate tool makers, to try to tackle the challenges that we face by using our brain power and our collaborative power and coming up with new solutions to previous problems that we face. And so I think that this competition is being framed around three things that I know are consuming my attention every day, and are consuming the employers of the region attention every single day. And it's something that are quite real. And I'm really excited about the idea of your efforts through this competition to provide some input, not only to give yourselves a great experience in sort of tackling some of the issues of the day, maybe a shot at that prize money, but candidly, maybe some opportunities for us to get some great ideas to tackle these. There is probably no bigger issue in higher ed right now than, is it possible to safely repopulate campuses? It's clear that taking a class on Zoom and sitting in your living room at home just is not what college is really about. There's so much more to this experience than what happens in the classroom. It's really about experience-based learning. It's about what happens in our laboratories, in our hospitals, our clinical environments, and our internships, our co-ops, and through the kind of collaboration and teamwork that are such a part of university life. So one of the central questions every university president and chancellor in the United States is facing is, how do you safely bring back student populations to live on or near our campuses, and deal with the fact that this virus is really with us for the foreseeable future until there's a treatment or vaccine. This is a big challenge, and it touches not only the technology of infectious disease management, but also the human engineering about sort of modifying behaviors, and how do we get people to buy into those things that we can do collectively to lower the risk to each other, and do it in a way that candidly is compatible with students and student life and their expectations for what we want out of a college experience. So huge opportunity there, and certainly something that we're all going to be looking forward to seeing your ideas. I think on the question of race and social justice, there's no question that this is a moment unlike probably any moment in our lifetimes. Probably not since the civil rights era has there been such a new focus on the systemic racism that is both in our society and many of the institutions in our society. With that sense of crisis and is a real opportunity to tackle these issues at scale and with an energy that we haven't had for a while. And I know what every business leader, what every institutional leader, what every elected official is grappling with now is what are those concrete things we can do to systemically address social justice and systemic racism in our institutions and in the societies that we support. I think that it puts a real lens on many of the things we do as universities in terms of not only how we teach and what we teach, but the kinds of things we study and importantly, the impact that those studies can have on the communities around us. And for me, that's really important because universities are not ivory towers, they're part of the community. And I think this is a chance to kind of recenter university missions on making a difference in society. And we're looking forward to your ideas there. And then finally, a very Pittsburgh type challenge, which may not occur to you unless you know the city, but this is a city that's been dealt as strong a hand as probably any city in the United States in terms of this concentration of talent, of opportunity, of quality of life. And yet it's not growing and surging like we've seen other cities do. And one of the questions is, what creates that momentum, that tipping in moment, where this becomes a place that's starting to really attract talent and we see more opportunity and growth? And importantly, how do we make that growth an opportunity for everybody in Pittsburgh, not just the ones coming in to work in the high-tech company, but this kind of inclusive economic development? This is one of the real challenges Pittsburgh faces to turn its many advantages into a real economic strength. And we're looking forward to your ideas about how to do that. So finally, let me just say, I think as great as case competitions are, and this Pittsburgh Passport Competition is no exception, I think doing this one now in the middle of this pandemic is really important for you because you know, a lot of opportunities have been put on hold, right, with all the disruption in employment and businesses sort of foregoing hiring. Yet your lives can't be put on hold. And I think this is really a chance for you to showcase your ideas and your ingenuity and to put them out and to have others benefit from. And I think by doing that, you're going to find it benefits you too, as you find ways to stay engaged and stay collaborating and stay working on the biggest challenges of the day, because that's really what we need from all of you. So thanks. Was I supposed to, oh, sorry, let me, I was supposed to introduce somebody. Dana Romano is the Senior Associate Director of our Pitt's Katz Graduate School of Business, is going to fill you in on some of the details now. So Dana?
Thank you, Chancellor Gallagher. Thank you both so much for being here today and your inspirational words. Allison, did you want to start by taking folks out to the website so that we can show them some of the things we put together? All right, so do you want to scroll down a little bit? Can everybody see the Pittsburgh Passport? And there we go. So this is the Pittsburgh Passport website, which I'm sure all of you are very familiar with at this point. If you click on the case competition button, there's all the resources that we're going to go over with you today. So we've tried to put together, we've tried to think of everything. I'm sure we've missed one or two things, but we'll add it as we learn, because this is the first year for us as well. So there's a case competition, frequently asked question sheet. All of the different case scopes are out here: back to school, social justice, and welcome to Pittsburgh. We also thought that, you know, some of you this might be the first case competition that you've ever participated in. So we put together a slide deck with best practices just to get you started so that you have a little bit of guidance on how the PowerPoint slides are supposed to be put together. Thanks so much, Allison. All right, so I'm going to get started by taking us through the process. So there's a couple folks on the line. If you want to add questions to chat, we'll also have time at the end to answer any questions that you have. But like I said before, this is the first time that the Pittsburgh Passport has run a case competition, and we're so excited that there's almost 100 of you on the line. We wanted to talk about why you would participate in the case competition. So the whole reason to participate in this is that we want you to share your ideas and work together to find solutions that really make a difference. And we want you to meet new people in the process. And I'll just tell you that it's really exciting for us as we learn that we thought, oh, wow, you know, these teams are all going to form, and they're going to form with their friends, and you know, they're all going to be from one school, you know, on a team and so on. And that hasn't happened, which is so exciting because it's a completely new component in the case competition, because you're forming teams with people that you've never met before. And so I think that Linda's going to put the link out in chat for you, but we have a LinkedIn page. So if you're looking for people to fulfill your team, look on the LinkedIn page and add some folks that you'd really like to meet, and you can work together for the first time in this case competition. You know, basically the case competition is a win-win-win the whole way around, but we want to really help the Pittsburgh region become a better place to live and to work and to play. And, you know, for you, the positive and challenging team problem-solving experience is hopefully going to be this great experience for you. But I can tell you from being in career management that this is going to look really good on your resume as well. All the teams who submit a proposal are going to be invited to attend a private virtual networking event with regional hiring managers in August. And that is a way for you really to meet people and to expand your network. And networking is the #1 way to find opportunities. The top 5 teams in each one of the categories will be presenting their solutions to an executive selection committee. So some of the top officials from all over Pittsburgh are going to be listening to your presentations. So the top 3 teams are going to will compete for $30,000 in cash prizes. And it's been amazing to watch that come together. So the overview and the timeline. So students that are recent graduates, which means 2018 or later, can form teams of 3, but no more than 5 participants on a team. The teams must obviously register and submit all required materials on or before 12 noon on Monday, January 13th. So you have a week, okay? And the top 5 teams in each one of the categories will be announced on Friday, July 24th. Between Monday, July 27th and July 30th, the teams will present to an executive selection committee live on Zoom, and the first, second, and third place teams will be announced on July 31st. And like I said, those dates are also on the website. So if we can take a look at the registration process. So to form your team, and we talked about if you don't have a team or you're looking for a team to go out onto LinkedIn, you are going to form your team, you're going to pick your case, and you're going to register out at this link. Okay, so please note that all the teammates should be registered with the Pittsburgh Passport, that you are able to participate in more than one category, because we thought we would be asked that. So if you have a strong desire to, you know, make a difference in more than one area, you can have a team and do more than one. If you're looking for teammates, like I said, check out the LinkedIn page, and you can go and the case competition post and comment to connect. So with that, I wanted to take you through the first case. All right, so each one of these cases is set up in the same format, and I'll go over that with you in a second. But the first case is near and dear to my heart, and it's back to school, reimagining how college students engage in social and networking activities safely during COVID-19 times. And when you look at this case, if this is the one that you want to do, I want you to think closely about a couple different things. I want you to think about the freshman students who have never experienced college at all. And now maybe students from another country or another city that not only have to navigate a new place, but they need to create a network with limited in-person activities. And we all know that that can be a little bit challenging. So if we're going to do larger social gatherings like parties and sporting events, or going to bars and restaurants are going to be limited, how do we as students socialize? And what about in the winter months, whenever we can't sit outside and socialize like we do in the summer months? For our graduate students, professional networking is a major part of the curriculum. So how can you overcome that challenge? So I want you to consider how you might create new formats for networking and social engagement. And, these ideas are intentionally broad, and there's an opportunity to innovate right now. We didn't want you to have barriers or too many boundaries. So don't limit yourself to this short list, and be sure to come up with concrete solutions and clear paths forward. How can the college experience maintain its ability to bring students and professionals together as peers, colleagues, and friends for networking and socializing safely? All of the different scopes are put into the same format. That format in each scope is outlined as plan, design, build, and implement. Details about the back to school case are available on the website. And with that, I would like to ask my colleague, Ron Adoko, who is the Diversity and Multicultural Programs Manager, Pitt, to walk us through the social justice case.
Ron, you're on mute. There you go.
I still do that. I always have trouble with that. Good afternoon, everyone. I apologize if I do sound choppy, and if I do, I'm going to end up cutting off my video because technology. But I do want to thank you all for taking the time to participate in these case competitions and talking more about the social justice scope. And so you see the scope there, the question: how do we teach and promote anti-racism at home, at work, and at school? What can you create, or what sources can you create that provides the opportunity for ongoing dialogue and learning between intersectional audiences? And as Chancellor Gallagher mentioned, we are at a crucible moment in our country. I think it's very apparent to most of us, right, that change has to happen. When we see the consistent amount of protest, the engagement, we know that folks are prepared for change. But when we think about change, how do we affect change? We have to really ask ourselves, what does it mean to operate as an anti-racist, right, when we're attempting to attack the pandemic of racism? I think we have to start from the very beginning, with definitions. And so it's important for those of you that are considering this here competition, the social justice scope, that you have an understanding of racism as it appears in our country. When we talk about racism, it's important to understand it, that it really talks about one group having the power to carry out systematic discrimination through institutional policies and practices of society, and by shaping the cultural beliefs and values that support those racist policies and practices. And obviously in our context, right, that group is white people. And so when we think about how do we move forward, we really have to have an understanding of how do we think about the policies and ideas that produce and normalize racial inequities, right? Considering that there's a group in power, right? We have to think about power dynamics. So for those of you that are trying to think of ways to wrap your head around this, I find that the easiest way to think about it is to think in terms of racial inequities, right? When we talk about racial inequity speaks to the idea that two or more racial groups are standing on a relatively equal footing, right? Conversely, racial inequity speaks to the idea that two or more groups are not standing on relatively equal footing. We understand, because of racism, right, it's a complex and pervasive system of racial inequities, right, that have been socialized into nearly every aspect of our society and has been a source of perpetual harm to communities of color, pointedly Black people. And so understanding, you know, the inequities that exist, whether we're talking about education, criminal justice, healthcare, economic opportunity, right? How do we position ourselves to address those effectively? So I wanted to share a quote from Ibram Kendi, who is the author of How to Be an Anti-Racist, that I think helps us better position what it means to be an anti-racist. It goes, the opposite of racist isn't not racist. It is anti-racist. What's the difference? One endorses either the idea of a racial hierarchy as a racist or racial equality as an anti-racist. One either believes problems are rooted in groups of people as a racist or locates roots of problems in power and policies as anti-racist. One either allows racial inequities to persevere as a racist or confronts racial inequities as an anti-racist. There is no safe space or in-between safe space of not racist. The claim of not racist neutrality is a mask for racism. So again, your mission here is to really think about how do we position others to really engage in this work as anti-racist, recognizing that, you know, we have to create systems of education, of engagement that allow folks to understand the issues at their core and position them to think of innovative solutions. I'm excited to see the ideas that are generated by this group, and we have outlined a bevy of resources that you can utilize to position yourself to better understand racism and its impacts, especially in communities of color, especially again pointedly with Black people, but then also understand the opportunities that exist to address racism effectively and to position all of us to work united as a community to really dismantle racism where it may appear. I recognize that we are asking you to take on a challenge that has existed since the foundation of this country. But as I mentioned, there has been no great opportunity, at least in my lifetime, in terms of the will for change. Utilizing your ingenuity, your teamwork will be key. I am happy to address further questions on this. I certainly look forward to the engagement from the group, and I am hopeful that regardless of what you choose for your competition, that we all endeavor to operate as anti-racist, you know, in our communities and lead the change we want to see to create a much more inclusive, equitable, and just society for all. And on that, I would like to transition to Allison to talk about our remaining case competition.
Thanks so much, Ron. And obviously that's a huge topic to unpack that I know you could talk about for a lot more hours. So I really encourage you all to check out the resources that Ron provided and do some kind of ongoing learning for yourself. So transitioning to a much lighter scope and really, to be honest, a challenge that cities around the world have been trying to figure out for a long time. So we recognize, you know, we're throwing out a challenge that hasn't really been solved anywhere, and asking you to think of outside the box about how to welcome talent and how to help people feel connected. And so the Welcome to Pittsburgh scope focuses a little bit more on kind of a design and a physical product of designing an app concept that will welcome new professional talent to the region, connecting them to other professionals, social activities, meetups, tips about the region, things like that. And I will note that we're not actually asking you to physically build an app, but rather design one. So considering things like user experience, accessibility, functionality, intersectionality, and keeping those types of things in mind. And as you're designing it, how do you connect with people in a new place? What tools do you use to meet people, to find out cool things to do, to connect with professionals, to connect in a social capacity? So how can people really explore living in a city maybe before they make the decision to move there, but also how can people connect once they've actually arrived there physically? Also taking into consideration, you know, our current circumstances and that those things may not all be physically in person. So really get creative about how we can work on connecting people and making them feel welcome and making them feel a part of something. I think for many of you as college students, you are ready to choose a destination to live after graduation. And we hope that destination is Pittsburgh. So as you're making those considerations, is it based on a job? Is it based on the city and the amenities and the things you have access to? What might professionals in their 20s and 30s consider as priorities when they're moving to a new city? Consider intersectionality of race, gender, family structure, location. Is it urban, suburban, rural? For anyone not familiar with Pittsburgh, we have all of those things here. So a little promo for us, we really have a lot to offer in the region for people who are looking for all different kinds of lifestyles. And we really hope you have the opportunity to come here and explore in person. But if not, you know, we'd really invite you to look through resources and help build something that can help people explore better. The other thing that I want to say is I know there are a lot of engineers and builders that are participating in this. So while you don't have to physically build something, if you want to build and you're capable of building, I say build. You know, we would love to have something come out of this case that is a functional tool that we can roll out to use in the city and have people engage with, or a design that we can then take to have someone build. So I think, you know, whatever you're able to do, please do it, and we can't wait to see what you come up with. The other thing that I'll just note right now is Dana's going to move into some of the submission things, but if you have questions, please use the chat function to ask any questions, and we'll get into some Q&A. And also feel free to introduce yourself. It's great to be able to see where people are coming from. Just in the early introductions, it's amazing how people are from all different cities and all different schools, and we're all kind of coming together under this one Pittsburgh banner. So we're really thrilled to have you all here and competing.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you both so much for going through that. So we have worked really hard, and I mean the Allegheny Conference has worked really hard to come up with $30,000 to fund in prize money. And this is for each of the 3 case themes. So, you know, the first place, so each one is $10K. So the first place is going to get $6,000. The second place team will get $3,000. And the third place team will get $1,000. And we hope that that helps with the cost of school or whatever that you need moving forward. So the submission requirements, the presentation should be in Microsoft PowerPoint. There is a 10-slide limit, okay? We would like you to record a 5-minute video pitch of your ideas. And notice that there's some information down below. So right now we've given you information, and there's information on the website about creating a free Zoom account. There's information about size and so on and so forth in the frequently asked questions. We'd also like you to just give us a really quick summary. We would like a 2-page summary of your project. And then if you can make sure that you cite all of your resources using the APA format. And here is the case submission link for next Monday. And with that, if there are any questions, please, I would love to meet everybody on the line as well. So please, we're a friendly environment. Please feel free to, open up and ask us any questions that you have. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Anne. I see you can't unmute because you're working. Thanks for joining us. The 10 slides covered in those 5 minutes, you can go through them, or it can be an overview. So the 10 slides do not have to be the presentation for the 5-minute video. And Dinkar, the slide limit does not include appendix slides. So those can be additional. Any kind of citations can be additional to the 10 content slides.
Both good questions. We'll add that to the frequently asked question sheets.
And again, we'll go ahead and share the link in the chat for the passport group. If anyone is still looking for teammates, feel free to jump on there. There's been quite a few teams formed, and I see some of the participants who are on the call today who have joined that group and found teams. So it's been a nice way also to just meet new people, which is part of this too, to grow your network.
I had a question about the social justice project. The mentioning promoting anti-racism at home, at work, and at school. Should the project encompass all three of those areas, or should it focus on one or two, or how should that kind of be split up?
Hi, Adam. Thanks for your question. And so if you think about the concept of anti-racism, right, we should think about that as a mindset that we should adopt in all areas and all facets of our life, right? So in reality, it's not the idea that we want you to be anti-racist at work and then drop it when you go back home to your community, right? So the idea should be, how do we really embody what it means to be anti-racist in all of our communities, whether it's professional, personal, or social, and really think about how do you really engender that sort of behavior or that mindset, regardless of where you engage. Is that helpful?
Any other burning questions? I know it's a lot of information to take in, so I recognize people are kind of soaking all of this in. How do you... So if you don't have, someone asked, how do you know what teams are already set up? We don't even know that yet until teams submit. A few of them have formed groups on LinkedIn, so we know that there are a few that have already formed. But if you're looking for teammates, please join the group. I see that a bunch of people have added, and since I'm doing this right now, I haven't approved everyone, but you'll get approved in the next couple of minutes to join the group and you can team up. But yeah, that's on you. It could be from any school, any region, you know, and if you need help finding teammates, please reach out. We're happy to help form that. Abhinav, I'm going to let you take the 2-page summary as the expert case competition person.
Sure, Allison. So the 2-page summary, we would want a single spacing summary with 12-point font. And there is another question about, so we have to make proposal for only one of the 3 topics? No, you can make a proposal for more than one topic.
But to be clear, you would need to set up a specific team and submit for each of those separate topics. You can't submit multiple under one team name. I'll also encourage you on the FAQ sheet, you'll see a link to the Slack channel, and Abhinav, if you can actually drop that into the chat, you can join that Slack channel. We will answer any questions you have for the next week within 24 hours, likely more quickly than that. But anything troubleshooting, videos, anything with submission or guidelines, please feel free to throw questions there. A lot of people will likely have similar questions. Ever is the plan, design, build, implement framework what we should structure our presentation summary around? You can, that's more so for guidelines so that people have something to work from, particularly those who are not familiar with case competitions. It just gives you some guidance. So you can choose to build your presentation around that, or you can go in a different direction if it feels best to do a different format. As an incoming graduate fall student, yes, and it is also open to international students. So yes, no restrictions in terms of where you're from or when you're coming. If you are an incoming student, you are also eligible to participate. Okay, I will go ahead just so that we don't take up people's times as, oh, is the video to be uploaded? Yes, so if you go to the submissions, there is a Google Drive that we've set up. If your video is larger than the size restrictions, 100 megabytes, you can upload it to YouTube and then give us the link instead. So there's a couple different opportunities depending on what size video and format you're using. So you have a little bit of flexibility that way. But I'm gonna go ahead. We have a fantastic week this week. If you haven't already signed up for anything Passport beyond today, and I'm sure you'll be busy with internships and jobs and life and everything else. But I'd really encourage you to jump on to some of the Passport events this week. You can register for all of them to get the Zoom links on pittsburghpassport.com. And here is what's coming up. So tomorrow we have a fantastic event and frankly, some kind of unprecedented access to a CEO from PNC Bank. Bill Demchek will be talking about the importance of corporate social responsibility tomorrow and their recent announcement of $1 billion investment in social justice and equity programs. So you'll have an opportunity for some open Q&A with him. On July 8th, we have a talk with Vibrant Pittsburgh about the impact of diverse leadership, and there will be opportunities to break out into different rooms for African-American, Latinx, Asian, LGBTQ, veteran professionals, as well as allies to really talk through how we can work together better and really have more equity and diversity in leadership and throughout our city and our companies. On July 9th, Innovation Works, which is a local accelerator, is hosting an event for us about exploring the startup scene. Several founders who started in companies, were interns, and then spun out and started their own companies. We'll be talking about kind of that journey to really starting a company in Pittsburgh and what that's like. On July 9th, we're really excited to host a Pittsburgh Steeler, James Conner, a running back who got a diagnosis that he had a week to live and really overcame some unbelievable adversity. So he is joining us to talk about his journey and kind of what Pittsburgh means to him. And then on July 11th, we have a live cooking class with 412 Food Rescue, which is a great local startup that's really transforming the way we manage food waste and get food to vulnerable populations, particularly during COVID. So we're really excited. There's a little bit of something for everyone, I think, in this lineup. So we really encourage you to sign up to join us. And we can't wait to see what you have to come up with in terms of your case submissions. So please feel free to reach out with any questions. And as we always say, stay well, be kind, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much to our speakers and to our sponsors.